Okay, so thank you for joining us for the afternoon campus activity as part of the Excellence in Education Day. This is our Strategic Planning 101 workshop presented by me, Summer Barrett, the project coordinator. And then we have our team of facilitators here as well. So Kara Chang, Loretta Chen, Kelly Kennedy, and Ku Ipo Loesch. So the purpose of today is pretty straightforward. We just wanted to together learn about the strategic planning process and really start getting your thoughts about emerging themes that we want to put into our strategic plan. So we really want to dedicate a good amount of time to having you give us input. And so there's basically 4 parts we're going to move through today. The first is just a quick introduction. Welcome to the movement. Then I'm going to give an overview of the strategic planning process, this really kind of unique, somewhat leeward process we're rolling out. And then we'll give time for you to do a lot of reflection and provide some input on the plan. And then we'll end with next steps on how you can stay involved. Okay. So as an introduction, we wanted to show you, this is our little launch, this video we created. So let me share screen. This is a message to you from our chancellor.
In 2019, when I interviewed for the job of chancellor and visited the Leeward campus for the first time, I was greeted with really deep hugs and I felt the aloha. I got to hear what people value, the importance of family, culture, and the sense of place. And talking to those people convinced me to move my family of 6 from Missouri to Hawaii. As a father of 4, family is important to me, and I know it's important to you. For the last 2 years, the world has been battling the effects of COVID. It's impacted everyone on this campus, and frankly, life has been tough. We're all stretched thin, but I believe that better days are around the corner. I see my role here as being a conduit to gather input, create alignment, and focus our resources so we can provide what the Leeward community needs. One person should not determine the future of an institution, and that's why I'm relying on your input, faculty, staff, and students, to shape the future of Leeward. To accomplish this, we're creating a strategic plan. If we have 50 ideas but no plan, then we're just chasing our tail and exhausting ourselves. But if we have a plan and focus on few key ideas, we're working smarter because we're not dealing with 50 things at the same time. This is an investment in each other to get to that better day. You are the ones enrolling students, teaching them, advising them, and providing them with the vital services and facilities so your input is valued and appreciated. Soon, we will be holding a series of talk story sessions. I encourage you to add your voices so we can create a strategic plan that is informed by all. I want you to know I'm here for the long haul. I believe in what you do, and I believe that we can accomplish a great deal together.
Not bad, huh? What do you guys think?
Good.
So that was a welcome message from Carlos. And let me go back to the PowerPoint. So this is kind of the iconic image and quote I've been using in a lot of the talk story sessions I've been doing. And it's this quote from Carlos, again, that I really loved and resonated with me. So in late January, when I opted to take on this year-long project, we were sitting across the Zoom screen when I asked him, Carlos, tell me again, why are we doing this crazy endeavor? It seems huge. And one of the quotes that he gave to me was, well, it's because it's everyone's responsibility. Everyone should be engaged in the future of the college. And so, he really has this beautiful vision, him and Kiala, Chalk, and all of, I would say, our leaders, that they really want strategic planning to look differently here at Leeward. And it's this idea that everyone's involved in revising our mission and vision, that kind of hokupa'a, the North Star of where we want to go and who we are. And everyone has a hand in creating that plan so that we all have a sense of ownership. So their vision is really that starting in 2023, everyone knows the plan and the vision and mission. Everyone's bought into it and everyone understands how their work is part of this collective whole. So that is the movement that we really are trying to start here. So I wanted to kind of just open the floor with a prompt to ask all of the participants here, why bother doing it? Why engage in strategic planning? So if you can just take 30 seconds and in the chat box, type in a response to this question, why engage in strategic planning? And as you're typing your thoughts in there, I will ask our facilitators to call out some of the keywords and terms they're seeing being shared. So please go ahead and type in a response.
So we have some responses here. Strategic planning gives us a roadmap. It determines where the money goes. It establishes a sense of direction, and it empowers everyone on campus.
We also have plan for the success of our students. If we don't plan, we don't move and we don't go anywhere. For the future of our children, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
And strategic planning also gets us from the present to the future. And one of us also said it's a privilege and responsibility when you have a seat at the table to actually take it. So that's why we need to be all part of strategic planning. And we can all be part of shaping the future because our decisions are intentional and cohesive with the same guiding principle.
Wow.
We also have more. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. The last one coming in, it guides the college's direction. And an opportunity to establish our values and thus our resulting impact on the community. Any more responses? Otherwise, we'll hand it over to Summer. Any more responses? These are great.
That's a
reasons. Yeah. Thank you.
Beautiful reasons. Beautiful reasons. Thank you for sharing. Yes, absolutely to all of it.
One more here, because so many others before us fought to give us a voice.
Very good. Very happy. Okay, so that's a great grounding in kind of why are we doing this process? Beautifully stated in a lot of different ways. So I wanted to move into kind of giving you an overview of, okay, so what is this all going to be about over the next year? What's rolling out here? So the first thing I wanted to say was, this is a very home brewed process. That's actually a term I got from Carlos. And, we had the option of possibly hiring, some kind of external consultant, right? Like, let's just hire a professional that does this for a living and bring them in. And one of the key things that Carlos said is that in the prior colleges he's been at, where he's done strategic planning, it's never really worked. That every college has a unique culture and a unique history to it, and unique personalities and programs, and that really every college has to develop its own way, its own process for planning. So he said, in his experience, the home brewed version always works the best. So Leeward, we are home brewing a process that's unique to us. And I have an image here. So every morning when I wake up, and sometimes I joke with the coordination team, there's two analogies we always use for our experience of this process. The first is building the plane as we fly it. I mean, literally there's days I feel like we're building the plane as we fly it. The other analogy I use sometimes is, I feel like I'm on a train moving at 100 miles per hour and I'm just hanging on. So it's just been a very exhilarating, exciting, frustrating, what are we doing type of experience. And so I kind of wanted to just share with you, that's where we've been. Another kind of common thing I often say too is it's a very messy and awesome soup. So we found that this process is very organic, sometimes non-linear. You know, we kind of bump around, what are we doing, go back, reflect, move forward, step back. So it's just been a very interesting process. And I wanted to kind of share that reflection with you. So as far as our home brewed process, the very first ingredient we knew we needed to do, and we're actively doing now, is to involve as many people as possible, right? I mean, if we want everyone to own this, then we've got to involve as many people as possible. And so I wanted to introduce you to kind of some of the key players so far we've been engaging. So first of all, there's me. So I'm Summer Barrett. And for those of you I have not met yet, I'm based out of the Wanemoku Center. I've been here for about 12 years. And I'm kind of on the non-instructional student services side of the house, is what I've been doing for 12 years, running student life, tutoring services, FYE programs. And what happened was in January, I raised my hand and said, you know, I've been doing this for 12 years. I'm kind of interested in growing professionally. And so I was one of the foolish people that volunteered and said, hey, I kind of want to try this out. So I was given a full-time FTE. So all my full load work duties I was given off to be able to dedicate to strategic planning for a year. So I'll be dedicating my time to this whole calendar year, from spring, summer, and fall. And then we have a team of facilitators, and it's Kara Chang, Loretta Chen, Kelly Kennedy, and Kuipo Loesch, who are all here. They can wave with their beautiful screens. And their jobs are to go out and talk to folks. I mean, that's their job, is to get out there and talk to all of you. And then to come back to you and say, here's what we've done, and come back to you again and say, here's what we've done. So they'll be facilitating face-to-face, Zoom, and online discussions. There's two other teams that we've pulled together. The one on the left is the Mission and Vision Review Committee, and there's a picture of all of their smiling faces. You can see it's a very diverse, awesome group of people. Some of them are on this call, and they have a very important work ahead, which is to revise our mission and vision. You know, our college has changed a lot over the last 5 to 10 years. The world has changed. And so their kuleana is to really rework our vision and mission to reflect right now who we are and where we want to be. The other working group we put together, we just had our first meeting yesterday, is the strategic plan and design team. And their job will be to actually write our plan. So we talked about involving everyone. One of the things that we've been involved in is we've been involved in mapping out the whole Leeward campus. One of the first questions we asked ourselves is, okay, who's out there? Who are all the different groups that we need to be aware of to engage? And so this is an infographic that we put together that shows you the various campus groups based on the org chart, so how work is organized. Who's out there, who's doing what? And so our intention over the next year is to go out and make sure that these groups are involved. And if they don't come to us, we go to them. There are some key groups we're keenly aware of that oftentimes get lost in this chart and aren't engaged. Some of them that come to mind are the APTs, the lecturers, the secretaries, and key O&M groups, right? Like the janitors, that they don't have a time to come and get on the Zoom meeting to do a focus session. So we're keenly aware of kind of these groups that we also have to take extra effort to go and engage. But the idea is go out, engage with everyone. Lastly, when talking about working with all the different campus groups, another important layer is our leadership. And so this is just an infographic that shows you how we're working with leadership and supporting the process. So one of the first things I did when coming on board was to really gain clarity about who's supporting me and helping to advise and guide me from a leadership standpoint, because we can't do this without leadership support. And so I've been working closely with Kiala, our VCAA, and Carlos. We meet weekly. and they just check in, how are things going? And their job really is to make sure that whatever we roll out, the college can deliver on. That's like their biggest area of responsibility. And then there are also the governance execs. So the governance bodies, faculty senate, campus council, NAEVA, student government in some respects, that also I touch bases with, and they serve in a kind of advisory capacity, where I check in and say, here's the process we're rolling out, what do you think? Because clearly for this to be successful, we're gonna need their support too, right? They're the ones passing policies and revising them and approving budgets and whatnot. There are other campus leaders that I'm working right now to engage, all the unit offices and division heads. So the division chairs, the center coordinators, the unit heads of academic services, administrative services, student services. So basically all kind of the main people on the ground that are managing offices and units, I'm also checking in with. So there's this huge layer of leadership that we're also engaging in the process. And if you have any questions, please pop them in the chat. So what activities will this involve, right? What does this whole kind of thing look like? So here's kind of a short list of everything on our radar that we are involved in as part of strategic planning. The first thing, actually, remember how I said this process is nonlinear? We kind of just realized this last week that, oh my goodness, this would be a really cool, appropriate thing to do, is we want to research our college's genealogy, or mo'okuauhau, and really look at the history of the physical space we occupy and how that can help guide or should guide our future decisions. So that's one phase we're rolling out right now. The second thing we're doing is we're revising our mission and vision, which I know sounds crazy. Like, oh my God, we're revising the mission and vision and doing a strategic plan. Like, that's crazy. But we thought, you know what? If we're going to make the time to reassess ourselves, work on the mission and vision. So that's another huge layer of it. The research on our genealogy, the revision of our mission and vision will serve as kind of like the foundation for the actual strategic planning. The actual strategic planning has several pieces to it that we're going to involve all of you in. The first is gathering feedback from as many stakeholders as possible. So just talking to folks, talking to people on campus, talking to community members, talking to students, and just talking about what are your experiences? What do you think the challenges are coming up? What should we focus on? What's doable? And what are you going to need to help execute this plan? We also need to do research. We're scanning externally and internally. So looking at current campus data, what research is out there to help us identify our strengths or weaknesses within the college, and then outside in the community and industry, what opportunities and threats are out there that we're going to have to be ready for in the next 5 years. So once we talk to a lot of people, do the research, then we've got to go to the drawing board and say, okay, we see everything on the table. We got to prioritize. We can't do it all. Right? It's like some of you, you beautifully captured the whole idea of strategic planning, coming up with a roadmap, giving us a sense of direction. It's this idea, okay, what are the main areas we're all going to focus our efforts on? Because we can't do it all. So we prioritize what we want to accomplish in a physical document called a strategic plan. And in that plan, we also outline how we will invest resources to accomplish those goals. The idea then is once we create this plan, then starting in 2023, which is right around the corner, we align our resources, our day-to-day work, and all initiatives across the institution with that plan. So that's how powerful, that's how it should work. And then we measure, monitor, and modify the plan as needed. So those are all the moving pieces that we're hoping to roll out.
Summer, we have a question in the chat.
Please, go ahead.
Jane says, what about closing the loop on our last strategic plan?
Which is the very title of the document you talked about, Jane. When you say closing the loop, what do you mean?
I mean, as part of the research or whatever that you're doing is looking at what we said we were going to do in our last strategic plan. Did we do it? How did it turn out? Do we need to revisit some of those items. Just that's what I mean, right? So we're just starting a new strategic plan, but have we even assessed our previous one to help shape our new one?
Absolutely. And what's kind of interesting, Jane, is one of the very first things we're doing in the mission, vision, and strat plan is we're looking back at the old plan to look at what components of those we want to keep or respond to.
Cool.
So absolutely. And it's interesting because a lot of what we see in the old plan are the same challenges we're dealing with now. Yeah, but absolutely. Absolutely. Great question.
We have one more question from Jordan. Can you clarify if and how strategic planning and accreditation relate?
That's more of a Jane question.
Great. I knew I shouldn't have come. Just kidding. You know, I don't know. So I'm just the accreditation liaison officer for ACCJC. We have other accreditors. So I'm only speaking to one accreditor, right? So like our culinary is accredited by one association. The teaching program is now accredited by another association, automotive, etc. You know, I don't know if there's something specifically in the standards that talk about strategic planning. So I don't know if it's mandated or not, but certainly I think it's an industry standard, right? That colleges have strategic plans. So that's the best I can do at answering your question as you hear my birds chirping and fighting here.
Thanks, Jordan. Thanks, Jane and Jordan. Okay. So I just wanted to give you kind of dig in a little bit to tell you about what we've been up to, right? I kind of give you a broad overview of here's all the activities we tend to do. Let me just color in a little bit for you about what we've been up to. So as far as researching our genealogy or Mo'okuauhau, there's a company, a consulting company called Detail, who I don't know if anyone has heard of before. Malia Kaihue and Kira Downing helped to run it. And Malia actually used to work at Leeward for a short stint. And so they're one of 3 consulting companies that Kiala Chak had suggested I check out. And when I got on the phone with Detail, just the way they explained what they do, that they approach their work with a Native Hawaiian lens and they don't apologize for it. And they walked me through this Mo'o methodology. It's a 4-stage process that they work with mostly organizations and businesses with. They work with a diversity of folks. It just resonated with me. I was like, these sound like folks we need to work with. So we had an initial meeting with them just last week with key people from the library. Anne-Marie was in attendance, the Kipuka Center. We had Na'ewa Council reps there. And I think that's it in that initial meeting with Kiala Chak. And it was a really good meeting. And so we decided, you know what, let's bring these people on. So we literally just brought them on yesterday, so to speak. We're pulling together an ad hoc committee that Anne-Marie and Puki will be a part of. And it's a 6-week-long endeavor, which sounds really rushed, I know. So if you're interested, this ad hoc committee consisting of Anne-Marie, Kipuka, Somomi Kamahele, Na'ewa Council reps, Kepper from Hawaiian Language, and Aaron Thompson from ICTL. They'll be forming this ad hoc committee that interfaces with Detail to pull together this Mo'okuauhau. So very exciting to see. And they're going to be basically look at the history of the land we're on pre-Western contact all the way up until now. And they probably will look into as well the history of Leeward. And just to get a sense of what space do we occupy, and then how should that guide our future planning. So stay tuned for details on that. We have this past February really focused on mission and vision. I'm sure some of you have attended those talk story sessions. We had 3 sessions, 2 of them were for faculty and staff, and 1 was for students. We had 51 participants, and they just generated all kinds of amazing things. And I have here a quote. It's a fun sentence that Kuipo put together, and she just basically pulled different words being shared by people into this cute little sentence. So here's just an example of what these groups came up with. Leeward Community College, we are gooey pioneers that create ripples in the community with a heart for service and a special talent for nurturing the challenging ka'i koi by connecting with the students' diverse communities and moving them towards their goals. We are authentic, we are real, we are ohana. So how interesting is that? We have our, so our mission and vision review committee met twice, and we actually retitled ourselves, right, Wade? We're actually now called the Radical Rewriters. And we've been very productive. So far we deconstructed a mission and vision statement. So we just took the time to say, okay, wait, what is a mission supposed to do? And what is a vision supposed to do? And how should it be characterized? So we just took some time to understand that. We reviewed 15 colleges' mission and vision statements that were good statements. So it's like, okay, what's other people writing on? What can we copy? What do we like about it? Are there words we want to take, others we don't like? We reviewed Leeward's past philosophies, and we reviewed our current mission and vision. And one of the key reasons for reviewing the past philosophies was to make sure we honor what is unique about us and our heritage, make sure that that still lives in whatever we recreate or create. We reviewed the campus input from these talk story sessions, and we have drafted 4 versions of a mission and 8 versions of a vision. So we're having fun with words, and hopefully you'll be delighted when we reveal to you the first draft. The strategic, so that's mission and vision. The actual work on the strategic plan begins as of yesterday. The committee met for the first time yesterday. Here's a smiling shot of them when they were oriented to the job. Their job is basically to listen to all the campus input, look at all the data we collected, and synthesize that into a plan. So I know this chart might look a little scary to you guys, but just bear with me. This is an infographic that Kuipo had put together that just kind of helps to visualize what a strategic plan is and its components, yeah? So if you look here at the top, right, it starts with our mission and vision, right? The mission defines who we are, why we exist. It's in the present tense. You know, who are we? What are we? What's our function? What are we going out into the world to do for whom? For what purpose? So there's a mission, and then there's the vision, which is in the future tense, right? Who do we aspire to be? And for what future do we hope to be part of, so to speak? So with the mission and vision, which is surrounded by our values, right? Our guiding principles, how do we conduct ourselves? What's the culture we want to create together? That's like the basis, right? So from that, the mission and vision and values, that's supposed to guide everything we do at Leeward. So then that should naturally guide our plan, right? So from that would flow down. Now we're getting into the thick of the strategic plan. So the first part of the strategic plan are what we're going to call pillars. You see these turquoise boxes here? Other colleges call it other things, strategic priorities. I've seen themes. At Leeward, we're going to call it pillars. And these pillars are like the big ideas or the big organizing principle that we're going to put all of our goals and actions under. So the pillars tend to be things like student success, enrollment, 21st century facilities, these kind of big ideas. And under these pillars, each pillar are goals. See these gold areas? And those are kind of like the scores that we're going to follow. Every year, we're going to come back to it and say, how are we doing on those scores? Did we move the needle? Are we winning in these areas? And these goals have to be measurable, right? Increase. So for example, if the pillar is student success, an example goal would be like increase enrollment rates of Native Hawaiians by 5%, increase persistence rates, increase graduation rates. So think of these gold goals as kind of like those key performance measures, those scores that we want to come back to every semester, every year, and see how are we moving the needle on them. From each goal flows tactics, which is the how, the what, the action we're going to take. Okay, so what are we going to do within our offices and units? and across offices and units to push and achieve these goals. And then the metrics is, okay, and how do we measure that? How do we know we've done these tactics? They're kind of like those key milestones we hit. So those are all of the components of a strategic plan. As far as this semester, we are only focusing on identifying the pillars and the goals. And then the idea will be next fall, we go into every office and unit and we talk about the tactics, the actions. What are we going to do within offices, divisions, and units? And what do we want to do across the campus as initiatives to push on these goals? Okay, I think this is one of the very last major slides, then we'll have you start talking. So this is what, when trying to identify what to prioritize, one of the key things apparently everyone does is a SWOT analysis. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this before. It stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And what I have here is just an initial list of some of the emerging issues and themes that have come up when we've looked at the past 5 years of campus data. This has also come up based off of surveys and focus groups we've run over the past month. So let's not look at the strengths right now, but take a look at, let's start with weaknesses. So here are some of the key ones that come up. Some of them probably won't be surprising to you. Student enrollment, right, has gone down over the last 10 years. Student performance regarding persistence and completion, we could still work on. There are some key groups clearly that need more help than others that we can hone in on. Job placement is an area that we could work better on for certain of our CTE pathways. Employee morale has been a big one that has been surfacing up in almost every talk story session I've had with campus leadership and various groups. Just people are burnt out. I mean, nod your head if you would agree, but just people are burned out. They feel like they're doing more than one job. They're worried about job security. Many people don't feel like we're really reaching students. It's tough times. Employee equity is another big one that's coming to our attention, especially for Native Hawaiians, women, and lecturers. Another weakness that's kind of surfaced up that I found was interesting is this belief that we have a campus culture where people don't quite understand what other groups do, faculty versus APTs, and there's a lack of trust on campus for, let's say, administrators. So kind of this interesting culture we have here. Something that bubbled up as a weakness and a strength for us is online teaching and learning. Apparently, a lot of people feel like there's a lot of room for improvement in this area. Another big one is facilities. They're old, they're unsafe. We still have the mold problem for a lot of you, right? Another one that everyone's harking on is insufficient staffing. Everyone says they don't have enough staff, and everyone's saying they're the most important, they need it. And then institutional planning, our ability to plan. So those are just some of the weaknesses that have been emerging for our team that we've been made aware of. So I want you to kind of just think about that. Let that soak in. I'm going to move over to threats since we're kind of on the negative slant. So here's some clear, obvious ones. So the pandemic obviously is a big one. Climate change is a big one. National and global competition in online learning is a big conversation that's been bubbling up, right? If everything's moving to online learning, why would people choose Leeward? What do we have to offer that's unique and competitive? This is an interesting one. General education redesign. I originally put this under opportunities, but almost every group I talked to said move it under a threat. So I moved it as a threat. Decreasing support for liberal arts is another big fear and concern people are having. Budget cuts, hiring freezes, the UH system and legislature threatening our academic freedom and job security constantly, right? And then this huge fear about the UH system centralization of vital offices. So key offices like our business office, our cashier's office, our IRAO office, and I think there's one other office. Staff there are worried that they're going to get absorbed into the system. Go ahead, Ipo, you had a question.
We had a question in the chat from Jordan. How did these things emerge? I think she's referring to the threats or the resources where we got the SWOT analysis from. What kinds of resources did we have?
We have a very long list, a table of contents that we can share with you, Jordan. We looked at everything from we looked at student surveys that were done. So there was a spring 2020 disrupted term survey that students filled out, to the HOPE survey students filled out, to the real college survey students filled out. Actually, Kuipo and Carol, you can help me. So there was a ton of different, there was even the WOE Champions, What I Wish My Teacher Knew survey we looked at. So there's a ton of student survey data we looked at. We looked at the employee satisfaction surveys done in 2016 and 2019. We looked at, what other reports did we look at? There was so many of them. I looked at the MC report that came out that I think it was in 2019, Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, that looked at all the growing industries in the Leeward area. There's so much out there we looked at. I mean, so much. I did meet with Tal. We looked at some of the DE Online survey that just came out, that report that you guys just pumped out. I looked at, what else did we look at, Ipo and Carol? I know we read the accreditation report. We read the one that just came out by Jane.
Employee satisfaction, leadership, the leadership one.
Oh yeah, Michael, our LEP leadership survey. How can we forget that one? Also, what's really interesting is I had 3 key discussions, and there's many more, but I had a meeting with the deans, the meeting with the administrative unit heads, and the meeting with the academic service unit heads. And their manao is also reflected in here. One of the things that I want you to think about that I really wanted to ask of you that are looking on here is, what's missing? What do we not have on here? Because obviously there's only 5 of us, me and 4 facilitators, that are looking at whatever surfaces in front that we're aware of, we're looking at. What are we missing? So that's, if there's a burning, you're looking at this list of like, geez, something's missing here, or something should be moved to another column, please let us know, because this is the document that's going to help to inform our planning. And then I have here opportunities and strengths. I won't go too much into detail on this, but you can kind of just take a look at this. Some key things that kind of popped out. There was a P20 survey, a P20 report that came out recently where they interviewed, I think it was like 40 DOE high school students. I don't know if any of you attend that webinar. And they had a report that basically just asked Hawaii graduate students in high schools, what do you want? And it was pretty screamingly clear from that report, as well as other surveys we looked at, that recent high school graduates want a range of options in attaining careers that are well-paying, that allows them to stay in Hawaii. And they're not aware of what community colleges can offer them. But that's what they want, help us get jobs and give us a range of ways to get there. So that was a big one. And so I put OSUD in parentheses because I was like, what a huge opportunity. We could meet so much of this demand. Another huge theme that came out of the report is that young people are asking for whole person support. So don't just teach me, but I need mental health support, help me with food, help me with housing, help me with paying for my college. So that was another piece there. A couple other ones I wanted to point out, the rail project, big opportunity for us to galvanize on, and reassessing how we want to use our facilities. I mean, think about it, most of them are empty. So what are we going to do with these facilities in the coming years? And then as far as strengths, I mean, this is just the start of a list, but I put here too many to count. We started to look at the ARPDs. It was just there. We have so many strengths, and I'm not just, I guess I'm biased because I'm from Leeward, but too many to count. I mean, everything from the natural sciences program, which is doing incredible, to the ICS program, to our education program. You could even look at student services, how incredibly productive those units are. I mean, and the leadership there, just too many to count. So we would love to start a running list of all of our strengths, right? Because then the idea is how do we position our strengths to meet the opportunities and threats, right? But it's just too many to count. I mean, we just have so many strengths. Go ahead, Ipo.
We have a question. Is this the full SWOT analysis or is this just a summary?
What do you mean by summary versus full? Whoever asked that question.
That was me. I think you answered part of it, right? Because there's a longer list of strengths. I was just curious if, for the other categories, we have more there, or is this pretty much summarizing the entire analysis that was done?
There's more. So this is almost kind of like the initial draft of what we've found so far. And so this is an area actually that we could really use your help in, all of you, especially if you love data. It's like, who's out there that likes data? But I'm sure there's so much more, because honestly, it was really myself, Ipo, and Kara that looked at what was sent to us. So we have a Google Doc of everything we looked at, but wait, this is just a start, I'm sure. But as far as threats, those seem to come up consistently. So I'm pretty confident that that's our list. I don't know if there's any other major ones we're missing, but I'm pretty confident, at least for the threats category, that we pretty much have the main ones there. But I could be wrong. So please, after this, if you're just like, the thoughts are churning, you're like, oh my God, they're missing 5 of them in this category. Please, Kelly's going to talk later on about how you can stay involved and help us with this list. Okay.
I'll just chime in really quickly. Another threat that was shared in the chat is how high the cost of living is here, which leads to the need for high paying jobs, education about finances, and so forth. So thanks everybody who shared in the chat. And then there's a few other things that people have shared, teaching effectiveness, student equity, student success. So I'm not, yeah, it'd be good to know where you might fill in the gaps in the SWOT.
Take a screenshot of that, Kelly.
I'll do that.
Great thoughts. Please help us contribute to this list. We'll be looking to, I think we have about 2.5 more weeks to get this list down. So please, 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 time is of essence. Whatever thoughts are on your mind, help us get it on here. Okay, so the last part of what I want to talk about was, this is just an initial analysis, just first blush, when the facilitators and I looked at the SWOT and what was coming out of the mission and vision focus group areas, these seem to be themes that are bubbling up of what folks are talking about, the chatter. So key themes we are seeing emerging are diversity, equity, and access. How can we make Leeward more diverse, equitable, and accessible? I mean, that seems to be coming up again and again in every conversation space we move into. Equity and diversity comes up. I mean, almost every space we go into. Student success, which is a very broad category, right? How can we help students succeed? Sustainability, how can we help Leeward be sustainable? And yes, you can interpret that in many ways, we understand. Native Hawaiian place of learning, how do we make Leeward a Hawaiian place of learning? A big one that was very interesting that is not present anywhere in our past strategic plan. Supportive working environment. How can we make Leeward a supportive place to work? That seems to be a new emerging concern that was not voiced in the past strategic plan. And then last one is community. How can we best serve our community? So those are, as of now, kind of the themes we're seeing emerging. And these are the areas we're going to ask you to talk about. So as you look at this list, think about what resonates with you that you want to go talk a bit about.